Okay, good evening, everybody. We've got 5 o'clock. We begin on time to respect the time that all you have arrived, and we're appreciative of your willingness to engage and willingness to come out. My name's Charlie. I'm the superintendent of Pickerington since all of July 7th. So thrilled to be here and to be starting my tenure here, which I hope will be a long one, with some nice community engagement. I always appreciate these opportunities, and we'll continue to look for ways to meet with you and talk with you and listen to you and share our side of the story, and that's really what a town hall is meant to do. It's a two-way street. I do have a presentation, should probably take around 25-ish minutes, but then we want to hear from you, comments, questions. We will certainly take any of them and all of them. We do have our treasurer here today, John Walsh. John is very skilled and knowledgeable about our finances. So any specific questions that maybe go a little bit over my head, John's been very gracious in answering them and helping folks to understand how things look from his perspective. We also have we have three board members tonight. J.D. Postage just walked in. Vanessa Niekamp is next to him as he makes his way into his seat, and then Mark Henson is behind us. So thank you to 3/5 of our Board of Education for coming out tonight. Our goal tonight is to help you to understand the facts behind our finances. So there's an awful lot of numbers and facts and figures that we're going to try to give you as much of an understanding as possible. Again, we will take questions, but we're going to ask you to hold those until the end. It's not because we're dodging them or we don't want to answer them. It's simply so that we can make sure that, or you can make sure that, your question might be answered on the next slide. So we'll go through the presentation and then take all the questions you have. We also are grateful for our folks on YouTube who might be watching. We do have a live stream of this going out to folks who weren't able to make it. So happy to engage in that way as well. We will start with our district goals. We're going to start every meeting, every presentation, everything that we do with these goals, because I think it's really important to continue to really emphasize what we are about and what we are trying to accomplish. So the first is every school district's aim and mission and vision, and that's academic excellence. And we have a lot to be proud of in this district, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the presentation, but we will always aim to help our students have the tools and the knowledge and the skill bases to walk out of our hallways and into whatever it is their next step might be. It might be post-secondary education, might be an entrepreneurship, it might be the military. It doesn't matter to us what their hope is. It's our goal to help them accomplish that. Second goal is to provide modern facilities. Certainly we are always working toward that, and you see a beautiful new junior high school being erected as we speak, and we're excited to open the doors to that sometime around President's Day. We are still working to get the details of that, and when we have the final dates sort of laid out, we'll certainly publicize those to our families and our community. Operating efficiency is a lot of what we're here to talk about today, because when we talk about operating expenses, we need to help you to understand that we've taken steps to be efficient, and we have taken steps to be accountable to our taxpayers. So that is our third goal. And then the fourth, I added actually, the first three are straight from our strategic plan that we formed in 2019. The fourth goal is sort of what I think we really need to be working toward as a public school system in the year 2025. We have to be pillars of our community. We have to be something to everyone, and we can't be everything to everyone, but we should hopefully be something to everybody who lives in our district. So regardless of whether they have students in our schools or they're alumni themselves, or maybe they work for the schools, those are all phenomenal. But even the folks who wouldn't normally have a connection, we want there to be some way in which they say, I'm really proud to be a part of the school district. The school district means something to all of us. By the end of our presentation, I hope you will understand two things. We have been efficient in our spending. The result, though, has been a movement toward class sizes especially that are really difficult for our teachers and for our students. And we'll show you some facts and figures as I talked about, but ultimately we have, as we've been efficient, which is great, we haven't come back to our taxpayers for new operating money since 2011, but as we have worked through those processes, our class sizes have bulged, and that proves to be a challenge, and we'll talk about what those numbers specifically are. Without an increase in revenue, we're going to have to reduce spending, and reducing spending in a school district is personnel. 84 cents of every dollar we spend goes to personnel. And so when we talk about reductions, there's not a whole lot of mystery in terms of what that would look like. And personnel can sound sort of corporate speak and kind of a financial word. Personnel essentially means teachers, means coaches, means administrators, it means counselors. And so we want to make sure that folks understand that where we are, there's no low-hanging fruit. There's no fat to trim. We're talking about personnel that would impact students on a day-to-day basis. Couple terms we want to make sure you're familiar with as we go through. We are talking tonight specifically about the general fund, and the general fund funds our day-to-day expenses. And the biggest two expenses within that are salaries and energy. Personnel, salaries, benefits I could have added to, but we mean compensation there. Permanent improvement is separate. So when you think about the junior high that we're building, Central Junior High, that's not the general fund. That's specifically from permanent improvement and bond issue funds. So it's important to make that distinction. We haven't, again, come back for new money for new operating money since 11. Now, sometimes folks get confused and think, well, wait a minute, what happened in 22? We passed a bond issue. We did, but that's specific to construction. And so that's where we make sure that we're differentiating here. Title funds are a third funding mechanism. Title funds come from the federal government, and they're very targeted in terms of what you can spend them on. We are nervous, like every other school district, in terms of our federal funds, because we're not sure we're going to get them anymore. There has been a pause on that from Washington. Now, Title I funds we're still pretty confident in, and Title I funds primarily go to intervention reading programs for students in lower socioeconomic demographics. So we are confident in our Title I funds, but beyond that, it's really a freeze from Washington. We want to, before we really start to show some facts and figures, make sure that part of what we want to help you to remember and sort of to recall as we go through this exercise is that these adjectives are what people have used to describe our school district. So as I came in, I sent a survey out to all parents, I sent a survey to all staff, and I said, hey, the new guy helped me to kind of look for the holes, help me to figure out, what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses. And in academic excellence, we had about 215, 225 responses. The most frequently used adjectives. So how do people describe our academic performance? Great, excellent, and strong. I also asked about efficient operations. Are these strengths of our school district? And again, when we went and said, okay, what are our most frequently appearing adjectives? Responsible, strategic, and great. We show you these things to say that there's an awful lot of pride in what we do here. There's an awful lot of positive energy in what we've been able to accomplish and what we offer to our students. These are the adjectives. This is the sense of pride. This is the spirit that we want to be able to continue. We don't want to get into some type of downward cycle where we're limiting student options, where we're taking away class periods, where we're even further increasing class sizes. We want to continue to be that school district. Those are your words. And you, meaning the general public, gave us those words. And those are guiding forces for us. We want to continue that sense of positivity. Just some background, how our school is funded. Just a good sort of reference point for you here. We are actually almost even in local taxes and state sources. So local taxes are about 45% of our general fund. State sources are 52%. Now we can lobby for the state. We can ask for more money. We can go to Representative LeRae and say, hey, let's make sure we're still funding public education to the extent that we want. But ultimately, they control that. That's the Columbus legislature. They just went through a budgeting process. We're kind of working through some of the facts and figures to determine exactly where we fell in that process. But really, the local place, the local property taxpayers and residents are where we can also turn for some increases, and that's through an election, and that's through a levy. And so tonight what we're here to do is talk about, can we increase that green section? Can we take that real estate tax and can we tick that up a little bit? Because that's really, other than the income tax, and some folks have made arguments for that, and that's a fair argument, but tonight, and as we're going through this exercise, we have two different options in front of our Board of Education. An 8.0 millage levy, operating levy, and a 9.21. And so we're going to kind of show you how we could take that and increase our staffing and therefore provide better services to our children. That would be in that green column, the local taxes. Again, state sources really are fixed for a 2-year period. Can't go knock on the Columbus tree and say, hey, we need some more. It's not going to happen. But we can come to you, our population, and say, can you help us? Can you see to it to increase the amount of money that you contribute to the school district? All other revenue, essentially, again, that's federal government, and we've talked about how that is essentially on freeze in many ways right now, and we are all anxious about that. Every school district in really the nation is kind of wondering, okay, what's this going to look like going forward? When we talk about asking for an increase, that's called a levy, and we show you this graph to say that we've actually sustained ourselves on the last operating levy that passed in 2011 for a far longer amount of time than many of our neighbors. Typically, school districts are going to be in 4 or 5 or 6-year cycles, and they're going to be coming back to voters that regularly. We've been able to sustain ourselves now for 14 years since our last operating passed. That was 2011, the last time we had an increase in local tax dollars for an operating purpose. Our issue is that while we've been maintaining ourselves, the reality is our savings is starting to run out. So every district, when you pass a levy, you're going to be collecting more at that point than you need. And you put that in your reserves because eventually, if you don't pass another levy, your expenses are going to outpace your revenue. We've been in that position. We've been in deficit spending now, taking money out of our savings or our reserves since 2022. And our issue is that you can't do that forever. You know this as homeowners. You know this as folks that have a mortgage and have all your bills and all your expenses. You can have a great savings, but if you're spending more than you're bringing in, eventually that savings is going to be gone. We turn red, and you can see that in the last line, in 2028 fiscal year. Now that sounds like a long time from now, but really that's fiscal year. So we really run out of our savings on June 30th, 2027. We are not the federal government. We cannot say, oh well, we'll just keep going, operate in the red. That's not an option for us. We have to do one of two things. Either cut spending, and that's what we're looking at now, because that 2 years is not far away. That's 2 school years. Or raise revenue. We feel it's incumbent upon us to at least work through this activity, this exercise with our community to see if it's palatable to actually increase the revenue. We don't want to get to a point where the state starts to intervene. And the closer you get to the red, the more the state intervenes. And if you really hit the red, now the state's here, and they're making decisions for you. And no school district wants that. You have 5 elected local school board members. They meet in public every 2 weeks-ish. You can go, you can comment, you can look at the agenda online, you can watch the meetings online, you can interact, you can send me emails. Local control is fundamental to our democratic society. We don't want to lose that. So we have to do one of two things because otherwise we're going to hit the red. And that's really a place that no school district wants to be. That's fiscal emergency, and that's where you lose control. The state will start to make our decisions for us. We're not there yet, and I'm not here to say we're there tomorrow, but June 30th, 2027 is closer than it feels. That's 2 school years. So, folks have said, well, it's a spending problem. You're spending too much money. We would argue otherwise. We would say that when you look at how much money we spend and you compare it to our similar districts or to the state, we're significantly below. And similar districts are ones that the state of Ohio says are most like you. So they have a very complex formula. They take all 606 or 608 school districts, and they run them through this formula, and they look at property valuation, they look at size of the district, they look at socioeconomic demographics. All of those variables come into play. And they say, here are the group of 20 that you are most like. We are one of 20 school districts considered similar districts. The ones that you can kind of relate to, Westerville, Gahanna, Hilliard, Worthington, these are all similar districts to us. We are spending $2,000 per student less than our similar districts. We're spending almost $3,000 less than the state average. So in terms of, folks saying, you're exorbitant spenders, we're not. Relative to the folks that, the state says we are alike, we're actually $2,000 below. So what's driving this? What's driving this increased need, this need to come back and ask? Part of it's enrollment. And we're proud of this. And as I've worked through the town halls and had conversations and things like Stuff the Bus, people tell me I'm proud to be here. We moved here for the schools. I've heard that at a good number of our town halls, both these and the ones I had in the spring, which were just kind of get to know you. There's a sense of pride. You saw those adjectives before. So we're proud that folks are entrusting us with their children. They're moving to the community to be a part of what we're able to offer. And we're happy to do that. But as you increase, you also need staff. That's a need. And we'll talk about where we've ended up class size-wise, because we just haven't been as aggressive in adding staff as we would really like to be. Another driving factor is the number of exceptional students we have. Now, please understand, I am not here to show you this as a negative. Public education, the definition of public, should be for the benefit of all of the people forever. It should be anything that's public. And so we serve students regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their needs, but you see dramatic increases in students that need some additional support. So our English learners have almost doubled just in the last 4 years, 97% increase. Our students with disabilities, significant increase, 43% increase since 2021. We show you this because these are students that aren't going to succeed in your typical classroom environment of one teacher for every 26 students. Or in some cases, one teacher for every 27 or 28. These are students who are going to need some additional intervention. And additional intervention means additional staff, paraprofessionals, assistants, intervention specialists that have smaller caseloads and are able to meet individualized educational plans, or IEPs. Our EL staff, which are additional staff members who help our students learn to speak English. We have 73 different languages spoken in our schools as native languages. The beauty of a public education is that it's still that American dream of being able to come and have a shot and be able to take steps into that upward class system and into a lifestyle and a being that benefits an entire family. That's what we're able to provide. But again, that requires more staff. We can't just put EL students or students with disabilities in a 1 to 26 or 27 environment and think that they're going to sink or swim. That's not going to work. Transportation has been another increase in costs. And part of that, some years ago, was because of energy. Diesel was getting more expensive. Now, that sort of stabilized, but what hasn't is the cost of bus drivers. We are very generous, actually, and I don't say that as a negative. It's really a great service we provide to our families. Our radius of where we bus people is that if you live outside of 1 mile from your school, you're going to get a bus. Friends, that is not a state requirement. State requirement is 2 miles. So we are half. Or really, you could look at it this way, we're busing double the number of students we would really need to with that 1 mile radius. The other thing we do is we bus students who might need to cross a major road. So Tusing, for example, or Refugee. There are developments right across the street, major street, but right across the street from the development that the students live in, from the school. We say, we don't want you to have to do that. It's dangerous, especially for elementary students, so we provide busing. We don't have to do that. I come from a place where we had already reduced transportation. It was a 2 mile radius, and we didn't have the money to buy it back, bring it back. So you understand, and you've probably seen news stories, you've probably heard, it's been a national shortage in terms of bus drivers. Now, we have a full staff, but we've had to pay more to invest in that staff to make sure that we continue to be able to offer that 1 mile radius. So transportation has increased as well. And again, these are some of the driving factors of how we've gotten to where we've gotten. One efficiency measure we take is to be very, very careful anytime we're spending a large amount of money. So anytime we're buying some type of supplies or some type of construction needs, some type of facility needs, we make sure that we are going to get the best possible price. And as you know this in your lives or your work, the best possible price is usually going to come if you have more purchasing power, a larger purchasing block. So we're part of multiple purchasing cooperatives to make sure that anytime we have to go to market, we're going to get the best price through one of these. And so that's Rob Weinheimer's role. He's our business operations lead, and he works through these in any major purchase. We do the same when we go for curricular purchases. We're part of consortiums for that as well, to make sure that we're minimizing the costs that we actually have to expend in attaining our necessary resources. Another efficiency measure, but it comes at a cost. These are our average class sizes. Average class size in comparison, again, to the state and to similar districts. We're 26 to 1. That bottom line, to me, and you know, you're here with me too, and there might be a different fact or figure that you will remember, but the fact and figure that jumps the most out at me is that only 6 districts in Ohio have a higher ratio. And these are searchable figures. You can go to the CUP report, you can Google CUP report, all kinds of different data will pop up on every school district you want to find. 5-year forecasts are available online as well. The other would be the school report card. That's where all of these are taken from. We're 26 to 1. Similar districts, again, your Gahanna, your Westerville, your Worthington, 23 to 1. The state, 20 to 1. So we're considerably above. We are trying to paint the picture that our backs are essentially against the wall now. When you say 26 to 1 and you're talking about kindergartens and first grades, we meet on a weekly basis, senior leadership team. And before the school year starts, we're looking at class sizes, because we want to make sure that we don't go all the way to that hard cap of a 30. We're coming close. And we're coming close in very young ages. And every educator will tell you that since COVID, students' social emotional needs have only exponentially risen. Students' needs in general are higher and more immediate, more right here on a daily basis. This is where we've gotten to. Again, positive is that we haven't asked for more operating money since 11. The negative is that our environments are starting to feel it. An argument that sometimes occurs is, okay, well, you're spending too much money on administrators. There's too many people at district office, or why are there 4 assistant principals at high schools? We would argue we're spending considerably less than other districts, less than the state average. You can see the numbers there. Ours is the lowest of those groups. So it's not too many administrators. And I would also argue that our administrators are running all day. They're putting out fires, they're mediating, they're making sure a kid can calm down enough to get back into a classroom. This isn't the old model of, you know, hey, the master schedule's done, I'm gonna put my feet up, I'm gonna have some coffee, and I'll go say thanks to the kids as they walk out. kind of high-five the teachers as the day ends. It's not what our administrators are doing. They're running all day long, supporting our teachers, supporting our students. You see our number, significantly less. So it's not some kind of top-heavy model that we've got. Some would argue, well, you're paying your teachers too much. These are our raises right here. Public record. This is what we've given since 2021. Classified are the folks that you see in schools that aren't teachers. So we've got secretaries, we have custodians, we have folks that clean our buildings, cleaners, we have monitors. All of those folks would be considered classified. Certified are teachers, counselors, and administrators. So you see our raises there each year, and then in the left you see how they compare to inflation. And you can see that we really, in some cases, fell way behind. Look at 22. Prices went up 7%. We didn't give 7% to our employees. Our employees, in all honesty, and I haven't been through bargaining with them yet, but they're very pragmatic. They understand our financial position, or they would have walked by now. Because you can clearly see that our numbers, in terms of increases in compensation, aren't keeping up with what's happening in inflation. The only place, and I always point this out even if it doesn't really help our argument, but it hopefully shows that we're trying to be transparent. The only places where we do are the classified raises in 24 and 25. So you had a 3 when inflation was 2.9. You had a 3 when inflation was 2.35. So not a whole lot more. But in every other area, our increases don't actually even come close to inflation. By the way, there's a fourth board member. I'm sorry. Hi, Kathy. Kathy's here. She's here as well. Kathy Oshevsky in the back there. So what do? We have 2 options, 2 pathways. We're here to at least present the facts that show you why we would even contemplate asking for an increase. That's the levy. On the other side is reducing spending. But again, reducing spending, take a look at that graph. 77% of our costs are personnel, which are salaries and benefits. If you add bus drivers in, now bus drivers are actually factored in purchase services because we contract with Peterman, so that's a contractual purchase. That's why it's called a purchase service. If you add bus drivers in, it's 84%. So 84 cents of every dollar that we spend is on our folks. But when we talk about reducing, we're talking about people. And we're talking about the people that you see every day and that interact with our kids every day. And that's where we're at. So think about the different categories that we could tap into for cuts. And think about the impact that makes. Administrators, could we cut some? I mean, if we had to, what does that do? Reduces support. Reduces support for kids, reduces support for teachers. That's what our administrators are doing. 4 periods a day. They're doing some lunch duty in high schools. Now, lunch duty may sound like, hey, all right, I just go stand. And I promise you, watch our principals during lunch periods. Watch the interactions they have. Watch the pats on the back. Watch how they're checking in with kids. Our principals run all day long. Teachers, could we cut some teachers? My gosh. How damaging would that be? We could push those class sizes even bigger toward that hard cap in the PEA contract of a 30. But again, at what expense? At what needs can we not meet with 28 5-year-olds in a classroom? Extracurriculars. We have pay for play, but nothing says we can't go higher. There's no state requirement. There's no state mandate on what those need to be. We could go to $1,500, $2,000 to play. We could go to, you're going to get a ride to the football game if you're on the football team, but parents, good luck getting them back because we can't pay that bus driver anymore. Not here to threaten. Not here to say this is exactly what's going to happen. I am here to say these are the categories that we're going to have to weigh if we can't secure further funding. Purchase services. Again, we're pretty generous in what we provide in terms of our busing. We could increase that radius. So instead of 1, it's 2. And if you're a first grader and you've got to walk 1.82 miles, sorry, we just can't afford it anymore. All of these, to me, are really negative options. All of these, to me, are conversations that I hope we never have to have. But we have to balance the budget. We aren't the federal government. So we have 2 proposals that we're sort of weighing. And part of, again, the town hall is to hear from you. So when we're done here, there's a microphone there, and walk down and you can ask a question, you can tell us what you think, you can say go for the 8, go for the 9.2, go for nothing. It'll be your floor, but we want you to at least have the facts. The 8.0 millage levy would raise $17 million a year. Per month, on a $100,000 home, it would be a $23.33 increase. We use $100,000 not because we think that that's what our housing stock is worth. I know for a fact it's not, but it's just an easier multiplier. If we use $250,000, it would be an awkward sort of calculation. So you can calculate up based on your housing value from that number. 9.21, more expensive, about $3.50 more per month on that $100,000 home value. We'll look at the next slide, but in general, 8 allows us to expand with enrollment. So as you saw that green graph at the beginning and how enrollment's increasing, we'd be able to continue to add staff to accommodate that. We would actually add 104 positions from 2026 to 2029. That would be what's figured into that 8 mil operating levy. The 9.2 allows us, and we'll show you this on the next slide as well, allows us to be a little bit more aggressive and actually make some impact in areas that we think need to be made. Class sizes could get smaller. All-day kindergarten could be a part of our conversation. That would be an add of 191.5 staff members. And again, this is from 26 to 29. Again, just sort of reflecting kind of the big picture approach to these numbers. Now, some have said, well, have a specific plan. Guys, I can put numbers up there, but here's the problem. We don't know exactly what our enrollment's going to be. We don't know exactly what our state funding is going to be in 2 years. We know what it'll be this year. We don't know exactly how many students are going to be on IEPs. So rather than give you a very specific plan that you could then 5 years from now say, wait a minute, you didn't add 12 intervention specialists, we want to be clear in that these are the conversations that we can have. Now, those conversations take time and they take planning and they take data that we wouldn't be able to have right now. But we can give you a general approach of each of these results. If the result is 0, if we do nothing, first we're going to have to talk about, are we coming back? And what does that look like? Because we're going to have conversations that we don't want to have if not. So what are future attempts going to look like? When are they going to be? Reductions in personnel and programming would be conversations we would have to start to have, as we've discussed. Increases in pay to participate fees. If we're at 0, those are all the conversations that we're having. That's how we're spending our intellectual capital over the next 6 to 8 months. If we're at 8, we can essentially say, okay, we're going to be able to expand as our student body expands, meet current needs without any type of cut. If we can get to 9.21, then we're able to do a little bit of aspirational planning. And again, this is community engagement. This is through town halls as well. This is through sitting down with elementary parents at some type of elementary roundtable and saying, what do you live in every day? What do you need? Same thing for elementary teachers, elementary classified staff. Do the same with middle. Do the same with junior high. That's when we can get into a little bit of aspirational planning. And that's at the 191.5 staff members. So our argument that we've tried to advance. Yes, we've been efficient. And hopefully you can see those are black and white numbers. Those aren't Pickerington numbers. It's not John's numbers. It's not my numbers. It's not Mark Henson's numbers. These are numbers that come from state documents. We've been efficient. Our spending is not out of control. But the high class sizes is the negative consequence of that. And again, without an increase in revenue, it's going to have to be a reduction in personnel. And personnel are people, and they're people that interact with our children every day. This is what people say about our Pickerington schools. This is why people move to Pickerington. This is why people stay for generation after generation after generation in Pickerington. And I've had a privilege of meeting a lot of those folks. And they speak with pride about how my child graduated, we stayed, we love our house, we're proud. Folks on our staff, huge percentage of our staff lives here. Huge percentage of our staff graduated from here. It's a place of pride. It's reflected in our survey results. We want to keep that spirit. We want to keep that perception. That's what this is about. But we're at a place where we need some more investment. We need to be able to ask you to be okay with making that sacrifice for our children and for our community. So that's our presentation. We can go back to any of that. We can try to clarify. We can go, again, put a slide back up if you need. But really, it's your turn. And we are happy to hear from you. Mr. Walsh is very good at answering questions that maybe I can't answer. There's a microphone, but I think we're small enough and intimate enough here that we can just kind of share out. So, good point. Okay, no, we're recording. All right, thank you. So if you have something to say, please come to the microphone and say it, and we will react as best we can.
Good afternoon, and thank you for speaking this evening.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask a question for my own understanding and knowledge. As I looked at the two options, the higher millage is only about 15% higher in terms of cost to the taxpayers than the lower millage. And yet the impact of it would be almost 85% more instructors hired for the schools. Can you explain a little bit how those marginal dollars go towards more teachers than the lower millage can provide?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. And John, I don't, maybe you can sort of chime in on that. I would say because it's a cumulative impact. So when you're collecting that much more money per year, it's each year you're able to add. So it's not a one-time gain. So you're going to gain, let's see. You're going to gain $2.5 million each year. So each year you're going to be able to hire $2.5 million more staff as you go. So it keeps compounding. John, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you. Great question. Good to see folks out to learn more about PLSD. The staffing of the 8.0 mil levy was driven originally from a 7.0 mil levy. So when we put two options in front of the board at a work session, we had a 7 mil and a 9.21. The 7 mil was driving the 26 additional positions a year, or a total of 104. The 9.21 was 191 over that same time period. So at one of our work sessions, the board broke up into smaller groups, and they were talking amongst themselves about what they would like to see, because we asked them to do that. We asked them to get feedback. So out of that feedback was, one group said we want to do the 9.21. The other group says we want an 8 mil levy. What we didn't do was increase the staff at that point to stay equal with the growth compared to what we had at the 7. So essentially the 8 has a larger margin than the staffing reflects that we put together. All that means is if we want more than 26, we could probably do more than 26. We just haven't laid out those numbers at this point.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question.
I think just this past week, we all received, notices about real estate appraisal values. Does that impact the need that you'll have here?
Yeah, it's a great question. This gets a little confusing in terms of school finance, but there's inside and outside millage, and we will get a somewhat of an increase from the inside millage. However, outside millage is frozen at whatever your property, however much money we were collecting when the levy passed. So the 2011 levy, and I don't have this number off the top of my head, but whatever it passed at, let's say it passed and we were going to collect $5 million. Your property could go up to $1.5 million, but we're still going to get that $5 million that we were getting in 2011. That never changes, and so that's the need for property levies. That's why. If we want to collect more from the fact that your property values went up, we've got to ask you for that. Otherwise, it's frozen. And the inside millages don't adjust nearly. Like, you're never going to see an inside millage gain of 8 mils. That just doesn't happen. What is it? Maybe a mill. I mean, it's inside millage isn't. You're not going to see as much increase from an inside mill.
So that's a good, complicated question, and try to stay out of the weeds. Hypothetically, if we pass an 8 mil levy, we're not going to net 8 mils because of the property valuation increase. The county will reduce that asked millage of 8 to something lower because the values have gone up. So they do that prior to putting on the new levy amount. Very complicated. We can talk offline if you want to dig into that a little deeper.
I do have a second question.
Sure.
You talked about the two different categories where you need permanent improvements. You're building the new junior high right now. Do you see a need for more brick and mortar in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
If our enrollment trends come true, meaning the enrollment projections and the studies that we've done, we absolutely see a need for more brick and mortar. I'm not here to say exactly what that looks like or how that would be accomplished, but yes, I don't. If we look at our enrollment studies, and we just had one done, I don't think we're done building. I think we're going to have to be pretty creative in how we approach that. We just met with builders today, Harmony Builders. I mean, they're putting 180 new homes in, $500,000 to $750,000 homes. You can imagine there'll be 3 more children coming out of there, and we're thrilled for that. We want the district to grow, but yeah, we're continuing to look at that, and we believe we will need to do more.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions.
Hey, thank you for doing this, first of all, everybody. So on your 5-year forecast, the 3 years prior to the break were pretty flat. I think it was 1.7 mil, 1.4 mil, 1.8 mil, something like that on your expenses. Yeah, I think it's a couple more. Yeah, that one. I'm curious to the projected explosion in expenses after 25. I mean, even going from 24 to 25, that's a huge increase. And I understand that we're up against some sort of, we're spending as much as we can on teachers and on faculty. And I understand that probably was less in the past as we've moved up, and I get that. But that's quite a variance when you go from expenses in 22, 23, 24, even just to 25, but then we're at 16 and 29. That's only 4 years from now. If someone could break down for me, and I understand the compounding issue, but that's a lot.
Sure. John will talk about his 5-year forecast and how he models that.
Great question. State revenue. We, in November, estimated, assumed, whatever term you want to use, that the state was going to continue their current funding forecast, where they update their base cost components, which are basic costs that districts will incur to educate kids and run a school district. The state didn't do that in their budget that they approved earlier at the end of beginning of July or into June. So that's what's driving that. We have revenue shortfalls and also the increased staffing. And you're correct. We hire more staff. We increase the salaries for our current staff, increased benefit costs. Our insurance went up 13.56% last year, our health insurance for 2025. So that's really what's happening is our revenue is not keeping pace with what we need on the expense side. Interestingly enough, with the November forecast and assuming the state was going to keep up what they were keeping up, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. That's the dramatic impact of what the legislature did, not only to PLSD, but many other public schools in Ohio.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and again, if anybody wants to have follow-up conversations, or John and I are open, we're available. We're happy to meet. We're happy to talk more. Happy to show you different models or figures. Mr. Harris. Man, that's not.
Yeah, nice. Get a little clap there. Yeah, my name's Brad Harris. I'm been a teacher in Pickerington for 20 plus years, PEA president. If you could do me a favor, Dr. Smiley, and go to the state average one. Yeah, that one would be good. Because again, just a couple comments, basically. I mean, I think the reality is, as long as state law and we freeze, operating levy funds and all those types of things, every district's going to have to go, especially growing districts, is always going to have to go back and ask for more money. Just doing simple math on my own, I took 11,500 students times the difference of the state average. And if you're basically coming up with how much savings the district's having based on the state average, that's $30 million a year. If you do it based on similar districts, that's over $20 million a year. And if you want to do comparable data with Worthington, I like Worthington as a comparative because they have essentially the same enrollment as us. They literally, and you can look it up, spend tens of millions of dollars more each year in their budget than we do. So I think we've been more than fiscally responsible. I get the frustrations with this ask. I do think the ask is high because it's been so long as well. And I do also want to state that I appreciate, and I've been to every town hall, and I appreciate everybody's questions and everybody's input. And I just want to add, I think, there's a lot of great discussion about how we ask for the money and income versus property tax and all those types of things. And I think those are great discussions. One of the main jobs of our board is to generate revenue for our district. And since 2011, so they've literally had 14 years to discuss and talk about ways of generating revenue. So I will just point out, like, I appreciate the discussions on how to put things out. This is what we have. Again, I think everybody here should express their voice. I think everybody should have a right to express their voice with a vote. So I just think that this is something that needs to be put up. Let the community vote how they feel. And if they say no, then yes, we go back and look at different opportunities and different ways to do things. If they say yes, obviously that's their voice as well. So again, I think this is long overdue. And that's just my 2 cents. So yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm always I try to give enough wait time. Up, sir.
So I'll make a comment, which is that my oldest daughter is starting kindergarten this fall, which we're very excited about. However, the frustration that comes with a half-day kindergarten and just the logistics that are associated with that are quite grinding, especially in families that have 2 working parents, if you have 2 parents. So with that being said, I guess my opinion would be that whatever millage is put up for proposal, it needs to have a plan in the future to have full-day kindergarten, because I don't think that keeping with the half-day kindergarten is a reasonable solution.
I am always too candid, and I am 100% with you. I think it's a real need for us. And when exactly we can move enough pieces of the puzzle to make that happen, I can't stand here and promise that, but I can tell you it's a priority. Come on down.
Hi.
Can I just finish? You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. All right. Thank you. I always wanted to say that. There you go.
Did I win? John, did I win? Okay. I am a district employee. This will be my 4th year. I have kids in the district. I have an incoming freshman and an incoming 4th grader who, if you ask them what their favorite part of the day is, art, music, band. The theater department at Central quite literally saved my son's life. But I don't need to talk about that. My question is, what is next? Because I am not confident that the board will vote to put a levy on, okay? And then let's say they do, what happens if it doesn't pass? You're taking away everything that my kids look forward to every day. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that out there. But my question is, when it comes to the pay to participate, and Mr. Walsh, you'll have to help me out. So currently, for our high school students, it's $275 per sport. Does that money go to general funds, or does it go into the 300s athletic account?
So the money doesn't go into the general fund, but it's also not enough money to actually pay for the sports. So the general fund then has to help out.
Okay.
So what would happen is we'd be taking general fund money and we'd say, we can't take as much general fund money anymore. So that instead of just charging sort of a fraction of what it really costs, we're going to have to increase those fees because we can't subsidize it anymore out of the general fund.
Okay, so then in my mind, I'm thinking if you're going to raise it $225 per athlete per sport to help cover what the general funds is spending, okay, that opens up money in the general funds, but how is that equitable? You're asking me then to essentially cover my 4th grader with my son's sports.
You're 100% right. I mean, there's not that's part of the problem with pay for participate in general. I mean,
So then you're
it's not
talking
equitable.
about 2,000 kids per season covering the entire district. Like, that's not fair to parents who are in sports. And I understand that's something that we choose to let our kids do, and we sign up for that. And I am fine with a pay to participate, but I'm not fine with paying more money into the general fund to cover my daughter's art class.
No, it's the general fund. Let's say the general fund is for all kids, and then there's an athletic fund, right? Right now, the general fund is putting money into the athletic fund so that those athletes only pay $225 or so many
Well, what
dollars.
do the athletic accounts look like? I mean, I know we're talking about general funds in general, but just working in the school, I know what those accounts look like. So I guess that whole thing is just really,
We would have to stop helping out the athletic fund with the general fund. We would not have that luxury anymore. And so then to actually fund all of the opportunities that we have, we'd have to actually charge what they cost. John, if I'm saying something wrong, please jump in. I must be saying something wrong.
You're in the right direction. You are. Katie just is in the district and she knows a lot. So the pay to participate, they go into an 019 account. They don't go into the 300 athletic funds. And then we pay for the extracurriculars out of the 019 following board policy, which I believe is 60/40. So general fund is not going into athletics. We are absorbing or paying for the cost that the 019 does not cover.
do you have a ballpark on what that is?
Ballpark on what?
On how much of the general funds is going in to cover the 019?
We collect on pay to participate about $800,000 a year, and that's 40% of the cost of those programs. So 60% would be the general fund portion.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you for your engagement. And again, we will. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm actually going to go back on that, though, because Where does, because I have athletes in multiple buildings and multiple sports, we pay a total of 6 seasons throughout the year between my girls. And I have another one coming up, so there'll be more to come at some point here. If that's only 40% and it's coming from general fund, where is all, I mean, this district hosts district regionals, meets, things, like there's so much other money that is coming in to the district through all of these things that we host that isn't going back directly to the sports necessarily, because I can tell you that because I'm in a booster position. We're not getting that money back into the actual sport. So where is all that money? Like, why is so much coming from the general fund if we are hosting all of the athletic things?
John, I can't speak
support.
intelligently to that.
Again, that's a good question. So if we're holding, I think it would be a district OHSA football, high school football game, we receive money for doing that, rental fee, we'll call it, and then we also get money for the cost of operating that ball game. Those dollars come in and we put those into a tournament account, which is a 300 sports account for each building. Each high school has one of those. And so it's kind of a cost in, dollar in, cost out.
Well, I mean, I understand. I mean, like, so I've ran PY basketball for, I don't even know how many years. I no longer do this year as I'm focusing more on the high school level now with my children. But like, we've paid to rent. I've paid the custodians. We've paid to replace scoreboards and do all these things. So there's still got to be money at different places. And I understand there is an up in a lot of things. But you also have, you know, there's not, and I know from firsthand, there's not a great relationship necessarily even with the schools and the boosters, to where there's so much more that boosters are doing in other districts that there's no, like, I've asked, like, what's the community, like, who does the boosters like step up to? They don't to anybody. They solely work on their own, which in my opinion is honestly always the safest thing. But you have districts like Watkins, who has a small district who can do things because their boosters are doing things, but they work pretty well together as far as I know. But I guess I'm just kind of shocked by that 60% from the general fund going to athletics. I also have kids in orchestra. Like, we don't pay, not that I want to play the fees for Philharmonic Orchestra, but like, we have all these other things that these kids are doing. I mean, I'm a graduate. I've been in this district for 42 years. Like, graduated, we did choose to be here. But I'm disheartened with a lot of the things. I have a kid who's had an IEP. I've had a kid who has had a reading intervention. You know, our class sizes, my reading intervention kid fell through the cracks because the class sizes. So like, I am all for smaller class sizes, and it's gonna cost and it sucks, and I did not like my property statement when it came this week and what it's gonna do, because I just calculated based on that and it's not gonna be pretty, right? So I know that already, but I'm willing to do that because it's what our district needs and my kids need. And I hope there's enough of us that agree with that, but I also hope that we remember that our spending needs to be like, this sounds really bad. You know, we've lost a lot. And that's one question, you might know this. How much have we lost in the kids who have left our district for homeschool and private school since COVID? Because we lose that money from the state, correct? When they choose to go private or homeschool but still in our district?
When they changed the funding formula back in, it would have been 4 years ago, those kids no longer flow through our financials. Majority of those not all of them, but some of them, we don't know who they are anymore because we no longer count them. Used to, we had to count every student that lived in our district. And then we had a deduction by the state financially to send the dollars to wherever they were educated. In a lot of cases, the money coming in the door was less than the money that was leaving. So we don't have that today. There's probably some of your scholarships on the special ed side that we have to verify or sign off on, but it's not in our view as it used to be 4 years ago because of the financial impact.
I just have two more quick things. Based on these levy predictions, how long, like, I know it's not a perfect picture because I work in healthcare, and I can tell you the premiums for teachers are going to go up again come January 1. Like, it's not going to be, it's never ending. How long are these levies based on projections of what we have coming in? Because we're not stopping growth because, no offense, I'm real pet. Like, our city doesn't care. They're going to continue to add apartments and multifamily homes in this district that is already tight. How long is this going to last us? based on our projections. We did really good for a lot of time, but like realistically, how soon are we going to have to be coming back because we're going to run short again?
Yeah, based on the assumptions that we have, if the 8 mil levy passes in 2029, we'll have, I think, 62 days of cash. Our board policy is 45. So I think on the 8 mil, if we stick to our staffing plan that we have and our assumptions on state revenue come where we want them to be, I wouldn't anticipate coming back to the voters until after 2030. On the 9.21, again, it's got a higher staffing load, so at least through 2029, we're at 45 days cash. So again, depending on what happens on the same side, you could be looking at 2030 for needing to have these conversations again.
And the last thing I have is I was part of a group of teachers, community leaders who spent months upon months looking at research for time changes in this district and what was best for our kids. And is that going to be readdressed based on what happens with this happening? Because we are not hitting what's best for our children currently. And so is that going to be readdressed and actually move forward to something if these levies pass?
All right, my friend, you're right.
Sorry. I
No,
feel like I'm just saying, like,
There's a good number of puzzle pieces that we have to look to figure out how, all these things fit together, and that's one of them. Yes, that variable is still alive.
Okay.
And that's honestly the best answer I can give you right now.
I just want to make sure it's still on the table because we aren't
That
currently
puzzle
meeting the
piece is
best
still
needs
on
of
the
our
table.
children yet.
That's accurate. Yes.
I just wanted to put a fine point on what you said last time I was standing up here. So everybody here understands. So our state representatives have voted against our children. Just so we're super clear on what that means. Okay, cool. And the second thing I would say, and I don't know anybody on the board. I've only been here for 4 years. So it feels to me like 14 years is way too long of a period of time. Like, I understand wanting to be efficient, and I understand celebrating efficiency. Like, that's awesome, not having to come to us. But if we were sitting here talking about 4 mills, instead of 9, like, that's a whole different conversation for a lot of people. My kids are 7 and 5. I'm going to vote yes on whatever the hell I can vote for. It's worth it to me. So with that, I would heavily encourage us to go the 9.2 route. Like, let's staff and fund our schools in an acceptable manner where we can strive for greatness, as the words say, and not have to be doing this and shortchange our staffing and be at 28-1 again in just 3 or 4 years. Like, let's do this right, and then let's do it again in 5 or 6 years, smaller amounts. So if the board's goal is to provide revenue, I feel like maybe they've failed us in the last decade, and let's make it right now and go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I've lived in this community for 49 years. When we first moved here in '76, there were 3 schools. My children went through the school system. I have nieces and nephews now that are in the school system. I have a son that's a teacher in Northwest Ohio. And they just recently, it took them 3 times to pass a renewal levy. And I know if you looked at last fall's, the different school districts and things that had issues. And the state, our big problem now is really the state legislators downtown. They need to do something different. And I think it just came out that Ohio is either 8th or 10th in the nation for property tax, how high they are. That is bad to have that record. And I was curious, how much inside millage do you get out of that 10 mills?
Our total inside millage is 4.5.
Okay, that's what I thought.
3.
So as property values go up, that goes up. That's
Correct.
nothing controls that.
Correct.
Because what's bad is your timing now, because the fact of these new evaluations came out. And I talked with the county auditor's office, and they said that they had been working on this for a year and a half. And I had printed out different values in my neighborhood. And it was interesting because one house, the valuation was $275,000, and it sold for $329 in January. So, you know, things are out of whack on especially the values of homes and things like that. But any new valuations, you're going to get an increase. Did you take that into consideration, the increase in your with the inside millage?
Yes, our forecast reflects inside millage growth. Yes.
Okay. And then I guess Westerville just recently put on a, for vote, 3/4% for school tax. You know, I know Pickerington has 1%, but, you know, instead of burdening the property owners, why aren't you looking at the school tax increase? Because when the new homes come in, most of them are going to be people that are working, and they would be paying that school tax.
Yeah, that's something we can consider.
Yeah, because I'd like to see it. I'm very pro. I've voted for all the levies and things. I'm very pro education. That's so important. And I think in the whole nation, they do not value education. And it's a shame because it's going to destroy us. We're going to end up like 1930s in Germany. You know, you destroy education. And people that are not educated will vote for anybody. You know, they don't research or do things. And those are important things you need to put in a child's values in life. So I just, in looking at the millage and seeing just like on my own, my millage will increase $1,000. I'll have $1,000 extra going to the schools because of this property valuation. And I just don't think, you know, a lot of it's guesswork when you're working on this. It's not always factual. And I just feel that you either need to have like maybe a 5 mil levy, or you need to do something with the income tax. Because so many people I've talked to are not going to vote for this levy. And especially after they get the shock of their property tax.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate your comments, and I think Mr. Harris said it before. I mean, we respect all opinions, and we're here certainly to present our facts and see what type of argument we're able to make. Joey, did you want to speak?
Hi, everybody. I just want to follow up on what you said, kind of what you said, and something that Dr. Smitlik said earlier. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Joey Moore, and I am the president of the Pickerington Support Staff Association. I also have 2 graduates from the Pickerington Local School District. I'm going to follow up kind of like with what John said, what you asked about. Myself, Brad, Mark Henson, who is a board member, and John Walsh all went down to the State House. And we talked to Jeff Laray's representatives, and we talked to Tim Schaefer's representatives. John laid out all of these numbers. If you go on based on what you are trying to do right now, this is what's going to happen. Guess what? This is what's happening. So I'm just letting you guys know we've tried, but maybe you guys should call their offices too.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
So I live in Pickerington. I've been here off and on for the better part of 15 years. I'm lucky enough to be a teacher in the district now. And I really want people to realize, number one, this 26 is an average. There's 30 students in classes. Like, that's actively happening. 36 is not the magic maximum that we have in our classrooms. There are 30 first grade students sitting in classrooms coming up in August in different buildings. So I hope that people realize we're at that now, and something needs to happen with that. The 60-40 split between my kids are little, but my niece and nephews play in this district and love playing in this district.
but I really heard a lot of what she said. The immense, intense things that these kids need to do to raise money, if it's not going to the general fund and it's not going to their pay to play, where is it going? And I don't know that. I don't understand that. Where's this money going? But I don't think anything should come off of every single student getting the best education they can without my first graders sitting in a classroom with 30 students. So I value the sports. It's valuable to my family. I want it to be valuable to my children growing up, but every single student needs to have a valuable education, and some of this needs refigured and reworked. I do not have the answers, and I could look at everybody and say, well, it doesn't matter if my kid's in a room of 30, because he has been. He's in the 99th percentile on everything. He's a fantastic student. That's not fair. There are children that I work with that struggle every day, and we need to do something in this district to pass what we need. Even if it's too little too late, we're a little bit in the find out stage right now, but I support this district. We're here for this district. I live and I love and I work in this district, but something needs to change. And it's not just the levy and everything stays the same. There needs to be substantial changes in this district that I think are starting to happen. So I don't know, this isn't the best I've ever spoken. I apologize, but it's emotional for me. I think it's emotional for a lot of us. So I just hope that people will support our kids and support our district, and I really hope we continue going forward in the direction of transparency, changing things, figuring it out. We can't just keep doing what we're doing, because we're just going to be back here again, and people are going to say, well, what happened? But if we're not changing what we're doing, we're just going to be here again. In another find out stage. So thank you to everybody for loving this district. Thank you to everyone for loving our students and us as teachers. I appreciate it, and just please share it with everybody else that we need this for our district and we need this for our kids. So thank you.
No, thank you. And you spoke well, ma'am. All right, so we'll conclude. Again, we'll stick around if you have individual questions. John and I are happy to answer. I know there's board members here as well. I do want to thank everybody, though, and it's a sincere thank you. It's a July night. There's many other ways that you could be spending your time, but we are very, very grateful for your engagement and your concern and all of your comments.